Russia's foreign minister has warned that relations with the EU as an institution are essentially dead. Speaking at a news conference with his Chinese counterpart, Sergei Lavrov added that Brussels has killed off all cooperation.
We don't have any relations with the European Union as an organization. The infrastructure of further relations was destroyed by unilateral decisions from Brussels.
Well, it certainly isn't business as usual. Business as usual has been dead since 2014, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov specified, because that's when all these annual meetings, annual consultations, summits between senior, high-profile Russian officials and European commissioners and leaders, that is when they ended. Ever since then, it's been a steep, it wasn't a gradual, it's been a steep decline. But it is important to draw the distinction. He said that relations between the European Union as a huge bureaucratic machine, soulless bureaucratic machine, those are dead. The relations between various European states and Russia, they're alive and in some cases very healthy. But Sergei Lavrov did say there is some hope, because if the European Union changes its outlook, changes its approach, decides that it wants to improve, mend relations, Russia will be there. But that has to happen as equals, on equal footing, to mutual benefit. So Russia isn't about to bend over backwards to do something that Europe wants, especially not after everything that has happened. And China shares much the same opinion.
European powers are making accusations against China and Russia, but they know it's a lie under invented pretenses, and attempts to interfere in the internal affairs of China and Russia are long gone. Our resolve to uphold international justice remains undiminished.
OK, now, Sergei Lavrov was in Beijing making the statement as he was talking to his Chinese counterpart. Let's talk for a minute then about Russia-Chinese relations. Where's that going? They're
becoming closer and closer, and they're being driven closer and closer, because look at the European Union's policy towards Russia. For the better half of a decade, the United States too, it was sanction everything that they feasibly could. It was to try and contain Russia, to coerce it into behaving in a way that Europe wants, that suits European or American interests. And it hasn't worked. Nothing's changed. I mean, they're the first to admit it, that it hasn't worked so far, but they believe it'll work for some reason in the future. And that is the approach they're increasingly taking towards China, because we've heard multiple times in recent years from European, from American officials, that it's China, not Russia, that's the potential big threat of the future. China's GDP, its economy, its military spending, its population all eclipse that of Russia. And lately, the biggest scandal was that the European Union has now put into effect sanctions against China for its treatment of the Uyghur people, for violating, apparently, their rights. The Chinese have protested this. They have summoned the European ambassador, told him in writing, in word. But nevertheless, there is little hope that Europe will change its attitude in the immediate future. And, you know, Sergei Lavrov commenting on Russian-Sino-Russian relations, he says, there's a whole lot more chance and opportunity in the East than there is in the West.
The European Union destroyed all mechanisms that we have been trying to build over many years. We have as partners individual European countries, guided by their national interests. And that, objectively, leads to the fact that our relations with China are developing faster than what is left of relations with European countries.
Both countries, of course, insist on loosening, getting rid of this sanctions regime that has blown up in Europe and in the United States over the last decade or so. But they also said that, you know, going into the future, when in the future some European Commission drafts yet another report about potential threats in the future, and says it's incredibly worried about Russia and China growing very close politically, militarily, then it should look back to this moment when it sanctioned both countries and drove them together.
That was Murad Gazdiev speaking to my colleague Kevin Owen just a bit earlier in the program. In the meantime, political commentator Jean Bricmont says Western hostility is only hurting its own population.
Well, the EU refused to deal with Russia to start with, and I think Lavrov is completely right, and I think the policy of the European Union is completely suicidal from our point of view. You see, there is a problem in the United States. It's in their DNA to look for enemies. They always need to find enemies. Now it's China, it's Russia, and so on and so forth. The more enemies they have, the more their enemies unite, as we see as the rapprochement between China and Russia. Now the European Union or the European countries have no reason to follow the United States. There is no way that you can do something from a German, French, Italian point of view. You have to do it from the European Union. The European Union is this big bureaucracy which is blinded by ideology, and the ideology is the one of the United States.